Protocol AMA. With you here is myself, Bruce Pond. I'm one of the founders of Ocean Protocol. We have Trent McConaghy.
Hello, I'm Trent.
And we have Richard Muirhead. Can you say just a word about yourself, please, Richard, to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everybody. Richard Muirhead, founding partner at Fabric Ventures. We're focused on Web3, we're focused on deep tech, we're focused on the token economy in general, and we've been working with these fine gentlemen for a few years now. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. So with that, let's move quickly into a short presentation about Ocean Protocol for those of you who may be new to the project or have just stumbled onto the idea. So I'm going to jump on Ocean Protocol. Let's start with a story. In 1999, there was a gold mine in Ontario. Some of you may have heard of this before, but they had 400 megabytes of data and they needed to figure out where they're going to drill their next hole to find gold, because they lacked the ability and the AI expertise to analyze their data. They put up $575,000 in prize money, and what came out of it was something amazing. They had 1,200 data scientists show up from 50 countries around the world, and those data scientists discovered 110 sites that they thought that there could be gold to be there. And 50% were completely new sites and 80% were commercially viable. In the 20 years since that happened, they mined 8 million ounces of gold, and the company valuation rose 100 times in that period of time, to the point where they were just acquired, or there's an acquisition offer on their company that was worth 100 million when they started to now $10 billion. It's going to be the largest gold producer in the world. And the genesis of this was essentially using their data in a way that allowed for AI researchers to access it. But in the 20 years since, we've had a world and a sea change in that people have recognized that data is now the differentiator. The invention of deep learning means that we're moving from the age of expertise to the age of data. Training successful deep learning algorithms requires computing power, technical talent, and lots of data. But of those three, it is the volume of data that will be the most important going forward. And this is from Kai-Fu Lee in AI Superpowers that he wrote. It's projected to be at least 10x by 2025, but only 1% is ever analyzed. So we now have a situation where AI consumers who have the expertise and who have the algorithms, they want access to the data. Currently, only 3% of companies say they have access to the excellent data. And data is a greater barrier than AI, or to build AI, than talent is. And there's a lot of value that's waiting to be created if we can unlock the data. On the other side, of course, you have data providers where, as I said previously, there's going to be a 10x increase in data in the world from all sources: IoT data, sensors, personal data, and health data, all this stuff. There are certain organizations, governments, and individuals who want to monetize their data, but they need security, safety, and transparency to feel comfortable to do it. They also want to use the data to develop new products and services. And the data analytics market is already a significant business that exists today. So just in summary, companies, networks, and governments need data to train algorithms, but there's no economic incentive or infrastructure to share the data. And that leaves data hoarded, not shared, and leaving billions on the table. And this is where Ocean Protocol comes in, because Ocean Protocol is an ecosystem for the data economy and services around it, with a tokenized layer that securely exposes data, the storage, the compute, and algorithms for consumptions on both sides of the marketplace. You have the data providers who can finally unlock their data and earn revenue, and you have the consumers who are the researchers and data scientists who can discover and buy data. And then you have all the stuff that happens around that, where people can start turning their data into some sort of revenue generating stream. One of the main examples that we've been working on is taking smart home data and providing it to private enterprise as well as to governments. And so we have a company called Connected Life based in Singapore. They have a Connected Life hub. They have motion sensors, smart plugs, door contacts, key tags, and a whole bunch of other sensors in a home, mostly in the elderly homes. They collect 5,000 data points a day, and they're targeting to be in 10,000 homes in Singapore by the end of 2019. They have a deal with one of the largest housing owners or management companies to do this. And they're building a data marketplace on top of Ocean, which allows for seamless data sharing with a broad group of data buyers. But of course, what they wanted to have is a guarantee on privacy and security. Right now, they have an agreement to share the data with Aviva, an insurance company, so that Aviva can start thinking about insurance products for the elderly. Most elderly, and I wasn't aware of this before we started on this project, most elderly are not able to get certain insurance products because there's no way really, and there hasn't been enough data to price the risks. And so Aviva wants to address this market because the world is aging and there's going to be a lot more people who wouldn't normally be insurable, but with this data, they can start thinking about what type of products they can start to offer. At the same time, there is a deal between Connected Life and the Singapore National Medical Research Council to study aging under the auspices of the Ministry of Health to improve patient satisfaction overall in their treatments, in the way that they're taken care of. And the idea is that you can use this data from the home to start giving insights into how somebody interacts day to day in their world, but being non-intrusive. And we have other use cases on Ocean Protocol. We talked about Aviva, but there's also another use case that we've been working on very deeply with Roche Diagnostics and the National Heart Center of Singapore. So this is just essentially a smart watch. Oh, actually, no, this one, we actually do have a smart watch with Roche Diagnostics, but there's also, Roche Diagnostics has a blood coagulation monitor that people wear and that they can actually share the data with the National Heart Center of Singapore. They want to use Ocean as the rails to make this happen and have auditing on how that data is used. Johnson & Johnson and the Singapore General Hospital with orthopedic monitoring. The National Neuroscience Institute we spoke about with Connected Life. Unilever is looking to collect retail data to get better insights on their products, particularly in places where they don't have ground level understanding of what is being consumed and how people are buying their products. And one of the things that is more about public data, but the Ministry of Health of Thailand has been working with a company called Next Billion to get data that's been crowdsourced through the Next Billion app to allow for that data to be used for machine learning identification of when toilets need to be maintained, what the sanitation condition is, and the hope is that they can reduce the amount of diseases and illness that happen because of unsanitary toilets. So these are some of the pretty broad use cases that happen or will happen on Ocean Protocol after network launch. And just to give you an idea, the core idea of Ocean, the heart of it is Ocean brings compute to data because data is heavy. Data sits in Amazon, it sits in Azure, it sits in on-premise. And if you're a publisher of data with data, what you want to do is be able to publish the data just to show that it's available, but you don't want to move the data. So let's take an example of Alice, who is a publisher at potentially the National Research Institute of Singapore. They upload the data to Azure, and there's a secure URL, and they publish it to Ocean so that we know what that secure URL is. A research scientist, maybe from Munich at a research institute, discovers the data and initializes the data science environment and accepts Alice's terms that is underpinned by a service execution agreement from Ocean Protocol. And so what happens is they create a data science environment right beside the data in the environment where Alice is. And then what happens is Bob injects that sandbox with the algorithm. It ingests the data. That environment allows that execution to happen where the data isn't exposed to Bob, And the algorithm can be improved, and it's all underpinned by service execution agreements from Ocean Protocol. And then once completed, the transaction is recorded, there's transparency, auditability, and then the value transfer Ocean token comes back to Alice. So that, and the result is, of course, Ocean brings compute to data in a safe manner. So just going into the project from a community perspective, we have currently contributions from over 3,500 people from 102 countries. We have 200 global ambassadors from over 80 cities and 40 countries to help run meetups and hackathons and spread the word on Ocean Protocol. And then just in summary, Ocean brings compute and algorithms to data for the very first time. The access, the agreements, the transparency is governed by the service execution agreements. These are smart contracts that run on the Ocean blockchain, and it massively reduces the handshake friction and the coordination friction, which is something that doesn't exist in the world. And what we hope now is that with the technology that the team has built and Ocean has kind of made available, data can now be consumed safely and securely while protecting privacy and opening up the possibility of a new data economy. So that's our presentation, and then let me just go to here. Let's go forward with some of the questions. So actually, I'll hand it over to Richard, who will, before we go into the Q&A, we'll have our little fireside chat.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. So, obviously, we're all involved in the space because we're excited how the power of this new set of technologies can allow many different people, not just the long tail, but also very large players in this new data economy, work together to a mutual benefit. And unlock these previously trapped areas of data. But and that was a great presentation. It was great to see you give it again. But if you're trying to, for the audience, really break down the core problem that you to this most kind of fundamental level that you wanted to solve, how would you think about that? And when you're allowed to think your most lofty ideas about where you'd like this to go, what is it that motivates you to be doing what you're doing? Because I know you're working extremely hard on this.
I think at the core, what's very clear is that data is so valuable and it can help solve some of the world's hardest problems, but it needs to be unlocked. People are scared to share their data because they're scared to lose control. This is the number one thing that we've seen. And with Ocean, it uses state-of-the-art blockchain technology, not a buzzword, it's actually that. That allows the value to finally be exchanged safely and securely while keeping privacy. And with this, we think that can be the spark that kicks off a data economy that's a lot more equitable and allows for people to solve some of the hardest problems that we face: the environment, health, sustainability, but also to get value from data, like as an enterprise, turning your IT center to a profit center. Who would that? And at a core, we think that this can help to push power back to people. Yeah,
exactly. It empowers people to help the community at large and to that mutual benefit. And so one of the, as I said right up front, we've spent some years working in different ways with you folks. And one of the things that's always exciting when we're working with entrepreneurs is how they've come at the problem space in the first place. What are the origins of you're getting your brain whirring on this problem space, because it's very rare that you can come at this something like this overnight and then suddenly have the right kind of elegant solution. So Trent, maybe shifting gears to you, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, how this came about in the last few years?
Sure. So it's really sort of a confluence of experience in the world of AI and in the world of blockchain. So in the world of blockchain, we've been, 1 second here.
No, keep the presentation. We'll keep the presentation. People are looking at my desktop and they've suggested that we turn on the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is really just about the audio. So yeah, you can focus on Bruce's lovely face or Richard's look. So anyway, so basically it's really backgrounds in AI and in blockchain, actually, and in big data. So on the blockchain side, myself, I learned about Bitcoin in 2010. It was interesting and so on, but I really got into it in 2013, as well as the other founders of at the time it was Ascribe. So we were one of the very first blockchain companies on the planet doing Ascribe, which is about IP on the blockchain and zooming in on a very specific problem in the world of digital art. You know, the question of how do you collect digital art? And we answered that saying, can you own it the same way you own Bitcoin, right? And so we learned a lot there about things like, you know, how do you connect real world contracts with a blockchain? Things like the idea of owning IP, which is data as well, by the way, as well as, you know, running into issues of scale we had built on the Bitcoin blockchain. And that's actually what led us to the next step, which was BigchainDB. And we said, there's lots of really scalable distributed databases out there with centralized control. Let's decentralize them, one of them. So we started by decentralizing RethinkDB, shifted to decentralizing MongoDB, and that product is called BigchainDB. So, you know, we built those, and those, you know, rolled out, solved very specific problems. And then, you know, because of BigchainDB, we were thinking a lot about data. And we'd also been asking, okay, you know, we spent all this time in AI before, you know, myself going back, the first time people paid me to do AI was back in 1997 with the government of Canada, myself. And I did 2 AI startups, both with exits and a PhD in AI, basically, AI for designing computer chips and more. And also one of the founders of Ocean, Dimi Dejong, he also had more than a decade of experience in AI. So with that, we started asking about different ways that AI intersects with blockchain, and we also saw that AI had this massive problem. You know, people are inventing these wonderful algorithms, et cetera, but they're running it into accuracy issues. You know, they're getting 20% error when they need 2% error to actually ship something real. And I found this myself too, even in my very first job in AI in 97, I had 35% error. I couldn't ship that, I couldn't use it. And the answer, instead of inventing a new algorithm, simply just add more data, and not just 2x more data, but 10x or 1000x. And the thing is, AI people knew this was the problem, but they didn't have the toolbox to solve it. And the awesome thing about blockchain is blockchain does have the toolbox to help unlock data for usage by AI people. And in Ocean, it's in two very specific ways. One of them, which Bruce was emphasizing, was with these service execution agreements, which allow you to bring compute to the data. This removes the concerns about control of the data escaping, all this. And so removing those concerns removes friction and makes it easier for enterprises to look around and say, hey, you know, we can maybe monetize this now by bringing the AI training to the data. The complementary thing to incentivize data is using inflation, using the network reward. So just like Bitcoin rewards miners for adding security to the Bitcoin network, Ocean will incentivize people to add data to the network via network rewards. So that's sort of a complementary thing to help unlock data, especially commons data. And so basically Ocean uses blockchain technology to solve perhaps the biggest problem of all in AI. And AI has this great promise, and Ocean is solving. So that's kind of the confluence of blockchain and AI. And then also towards building it, we have a group of people who have spent many, many years in the world of big data. So really marrying those 3 sets of expertise towards, you know, what we've arrived at with Ocean, really a quite elegant solution at the core. It's really decentralized orchestration.
And so maybe talk a little bit about, you've been through this journey and you've got this confluence of expertise, but you've been through this journey from one particular use case through now to building a more open platform for, you know, we've seen a whole range of different, you know, very exciting and essential use cases that people can address. If you would, again, I'm trying to think what might be useful for the audience. If you were to take one, you know, flow of data kind of end to end and sort of talk about the specific steps, you know, between the actors involved, you know, can you pick one example and talk through that for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I can start with just perhaps the very simplest one, which will be live when we ship end of March, when the network launches. And that is simply a commons market. Like you can go to a web page, and someone who has data can go to the web page and they say, I'm going to make this data available, and they provide the URL. And under the hood, they're providing a service that there's a contract that Ocean provides that says, yes, this person will provide this data when asked now. And along comes someone else, and they go to this marketplace and they start searching for the data, typing in keywords, etc. And they find that that data pops up, and then they say, okay, I want to download this. And then the person who initially said, I'm making that data available, makes it available via that URL, etc. So that's really a very, very simple flow. In this case, there is no exchange of money. It's just basically commons data. So people who are providers of commons data can do that. Now, to sort of refine that use case a bit more, imagine if now this data that you're providing is private, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I am, for example, a hospital that has the rights to the data,
Mm-hmm.
but Connected Life, which Bruce mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they actually have an office in Munich as well as in Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
but due to national regulations around data sharing, the Munich office cannot see the Singapore data and vice versa. So what Ocean is set up to do by design is where the compute can get brought to the data. So they can have AI algorithms that, AI models that get built on Singapore soil, and then that AI can then be shared to Munich, or vice versa. The AI models can be built on German soil and shared. So by doing this, basically it's resolving this overall challenge of data sharing across countries. The data never ever leaves the premises of the hospital, for example, right? So that's a sort of a use case that's slightly more detailed, and it's really about bringing the compute to the data. And of course, then you can also say, let's add price to this. So enterprises or businesses in general that have data to sell, they can actually sell that data, but it never ever needs to leave their premises. They can publish that they're selling it with a metadata. People can find it, they can query it on marketplaces. And then if I myself am querying it and looking for it, then Enterprise X or Company X will make that available to me. But I'm not actually downloading it. Instead, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to train this AI model, right, on premise at the organization that's supplying this to me. And everyone gets to benefits. The privacy is preserved, the worry about the data escaping is resolved, and at the same time, everyone is getting business value. People are selling the data, people are buying the data for their use cases.
And the kind of derivative data that comes out of results from, say, the operation of the algorithm, does that then get ingested back into the platform and then republished?
People can, yes, for sure, right? So as far as Ocean is concerned, it's not, the data isn't just raw data. It can be raw data, it can be cleaned data, it can be unsupervised data, just the X's, or then people can go and add labels, the Y's, maybe, So I can, for example, grab raw data out of Ocean and then use Amazon Mechanical Turk to go and label it, or a team of grad students, put that new data set on and charge money for that now that it's labeled, so I can do supervised learning. And same thing above and beyond the derivative stuff, the AI models that are trained, or the models on the models, or any of that, right? Or even the algorithms themselves. Maybe I have really good code to build a particular type of model. I can put that there and sell that.
Great. So, obviously you made this shift from one particular, vertical use case, and you've come now to a more open platform. And I think we've understood some of the characteristics of the kind of use cases where this would be suitable. To go into the next level of detail, because obviously you're thinking about this a lot, are there other specific characteristics of the use case that make it more appropriate, or less, or restrictions that make it less appropriate? Anything to speak to on that? And then I guess the follow-up sort of question that I'm headed to is, what's the kind of overall traction feeling like? You've got a few examples and how are people adopting this, and what are your plans going forward?
Yeah, so I'll answer that one at a time if I forget the second part. So overall, what are the key benefits? And it depends on the stakeholder, but because I come from the world of AI and data science, we think as a team about how do we benefit those people, right? So they want more data. So Ocean provides these two ways of getting data, right? Bringing compute to the data as well as the network rewards. So that's one benefit, just more data. The second benefit is provenance in AI data and compute. So an example there is, a friend of mine used to run data at SoundCloud, and they had built some amazing models for recommendation. You go to SoundCloud, you want recommendations, but they didn't know where some of the training data sets came from, so they could never ship it because it would have been illegal. And that was just kind of a loss. If they had provenance on where the data came from, they would have been able to use that. And this is a big issue for management of data inside any enterprise.
So interesting follow-up on that then. To what degree could you, in a sense, so Europe in some sense is leading the way with GDPR, and thinking about how we need to respect the privacy of the individual with respect to their data. And to what degree can some of that be baked in to the way in which we open up the data economy, so that people, without having to think hard about it, know that they don't fall foul of those regulations? Is that?
Yeah, we've thought about that very, very thoroughly, actually. So right now, there's this natural tension between people trying to build AI models and they want more data for it. So that's one side. And the other side, is other people wanting to preserve their privacy, or they don't want their data to escape if they're enterprise or something, right? So, AI wants more data, wants more openness, others want privacy. So the question is, can you have your cake and eat it too? Can you thread that needle? And with Ocean, we have found a solution. The solution is bring the compute to the data. So that's a key part, but then also you have to make sure that the orchestration that you do to bring the compute to the data itself is decentralized, because otherwise you're a middleman and you have man-in-the-middle attacks, etc. And even the model itself that gets built, that could get reverse engineered if you're not careful and expose personal information. So that ideally also stays decentralized, and Ocean enables that as well. So basically, GDPR we see as a wonderful step forward for helping promote privacy in this online world where the Facebooks of the world are actually trying to grab our data. And every week we see headlines where they're using it in some other way that they didn't tell us about, right? We can actually shift this to this idea of sovereign personal data, where we control their data, or enterprises control their data, etc. And we're giving permission to others to use that. We're giving the keys. At any point in time, we can remove the permission, remove the keys. So not your keys, not your data. So to summarize there, GDPR is a good thing now, but it hurt progress in AI. So Ocean is actually reconciling the benefits of AI with privacy concerns.
And in some senses, it does speak to that, a bit of a mantra that has emerged in our community and industry, from the move from don't be evil to kind of can't be evil if you use the right technologies that you can achieve that.
Exactly.
So I think it may be in a future discussion that we may dig more into the token design and token engineering, if that's okay. But I'm sure people are keen to come back online and listen to that. But I think it would be useful to understand if you think about where the product development is now on your release plan. Give some highlights for what that might look like. Obviously, it's a product release plan, and perhaps some of the elements you're most excited about in terms of milestones, and maybe some the hurdles that are tough. And it's clear that none of this is just simply a matter of coding on the weekends.
Absolutely, yes. So we had 3 development milestones that have led to our V1 release, which is in the end of March. That V1 release includes the network launch. And it's set up to basically do one thing really well, and that is for people to create these end-level marketplaces, for data marketplaces, data commons, and data science tool integrations. So we already have a demonstrator data marketplace, as well as a demonstrator integration with Jupyter, which has become sort of the de facto interactive notebook for doing data science, which then plugs into other data science tools like TensorFlow and Scikit-learn and so on. So that's really what V1 is about. People can go on there and use it to build their data marketplaces and so on. And it has storage. So the services that are plugged into it are cloud storage, so Web 2 storage. Then we have a series of releases, V2, V3, V4, V5. V2 is adding some more special conditions for these service execution agreements and adding more services, fleshing that out. V3 is bringing in the network incentives, which is basically network rewards if you supply data or other services. V4 is really about the on-chain bounties, and we see this as critical towards long-term sustainability of the project, so that the project is less dependent on the founding team, and instead the community can come in and basically keep improving the software, as well as infrastructure and marketplaces, reference marketplaces, etc., and also the community stuff. Finally, the V5 is really about going fully permissionless. We made a tough decision. We had to choose between performance or fully permissionless on day one. And we chose to go for performance because our users, the data scientists, need the performance. They need low latency. Several of them have tens of thousands of data sets. The fees, if we went onto the existing permissionless networks, would just be too much. So that was something we decided to do, but of course we are decentralized with many keepers. So in V5, we anticipate that blockchain technology will have matured enough to go fully permissionless, yet not compromise performance.
So decoupling it from the question of when that will have occurred, just give us some idea of the timelines of those steps through to V5.
Yeah, sure. So V2 we have published that we will be releasing this before the end of the year, V3 next year, basically. And then beyond, we will see. And, you know, I'm very proud of the team that so far they have, you know, we published our initial roadmap middle of last year with dates around the milestones, and the team has met those. So, you know, now we have these slightly fuzzier dates, frankly, for the next bit. But we also see that when the network is live, there is going to be work in maintaining it, improving it, and so on. So we see, so what we've laid out in our roadmap is the essential components such that Ocean itself becomes long-term sustainable. And, you know, we're building it not for the years or the decades, but hopefully for the centuries.
Definitely high ambition. That's good.
Yeah.
So fantastic. I think that probably encompasses some of the key hurdles as well as the elements you're excited about. Maybe Bruce can tell us how we're doing in terms of questions in from the audience.
I think we have a ton of questions that that people are asking. So actually, let's move over into the open Q&A, and we'll go either through Lightning or get a little bit deeper. So one of the questions from Jordy is, why does Ocean built upon Ethereum and not an own blockchain? Maybe Trent, you can just go back over that one.
Yeah, so overall, you know, this team has been doing blockchain for you know, more than 5 years now, right? And we have experience building lower level infrastructure with BigChainDB and so on, and we see that it's a huge amount of effort. And, you know, when we saw that for what we were building with Ocean, we could leverage existing tooling and infrastructure, that is Solidity, the EVM, and beyond. So we decided to focus our efforts on where we could add the most value towards solving this problem, which was that higher level. So we had the luxury of not having to focus on that lower level infrastructure because of the good work done by the Ethereum community.
Okay, good. So Andrew has asked, there's a lot of emphasis on service execution agreements. However, to get to that point of pairing providers with consumers, it depends on good data discovery. How is the data discovery capability of Ocean going to evolve so that consumers can find the right data sets for their algorithms?
Yeah, so absolutely, you know, it is about connecting the people with the data to the people that want the data. The good thing is, you know, there is a lot of demand from on the demand side. It's big simply because AI researchers see that they want more data, So to the question of finding the discovery, we have released a reference marketplace. And within this, you know, one of the components inside the Ocean software, it's sort of the level 2, the off-chain stuff, that it's a database. We call it OceanDB, and under the hood it wraps one of many databases, including Elasticsearch and so on. So with that, basically, those marketplaces are running these databases that then have built-in querying. And so if I register a data set, I'm giving the metadata as well as providing links to the data itself. That metadata is then searchable. So this is the first part. The second part is when we progress further towards incentives and having staking, et cetera, on that, this will provide signals to aid discovery as well. So myself, if I'm providing a commons data set that I think other people will really want, I'm going to stake more in it. And that will filter into the, you know, if I'm a marketplace that's wanting people to see that, I'm going to use that as a signal. You know, the amount of stake is people putting their money where their mouth is on what if they think a data set is relevant or not. So those are, you know, key elements of the infrastructure that Ocean will be providing. You know, the metadata search as well as the staking-based signaling. The marketplaces themselves can build other discovery interfaces as they wish, right? To browse for further browsing of data, or maybe even adding, you know, special metadata tags and so on. So we're quite excited. You know, Ocean is really designed to have a whole ecosystem of marketplaces rather than us specifying a single one. You know, it's really about a substrate to have low friction in creating these marketplaces.
So Feng Lian has asked, how can you convince data providers that Ocean Protocol is safe and trustworthy to share their data on the platform?
So I think it's, you know, one conversation at a time. And I think a key thing is them knowing that the compute can come to their data. That reassures a lot of people. You know, early in the project, when we were talking about, you know, unlocking data, initially we had focused just on incentives in our initial discussions. And people quickly said, what if the data escapes? What if the data escapes? And we were looking at a whole variety of different schemes. And as well, there's fancier schemes as well in the world of crypto, like homework encryption and MPC and all this. And those are all really valuable, but we saw that a very pragmatic approach is simply bringing the compute to the data. And this is much easier and more straightforward to the people with the data, the enterprises that have years and years worth of data. If they know that that data is not leaving the premises, it really eases their concerns. Ultimately, it's one conversation at a time, and they all have to try for themselves, but at least it's lowering the risk. And so we anticipate, initially, they're not going to put all of their data on there. They're going to put one or a few data sets, see what happens, and learn. And we look forward to that journey with them where they learn. Like Bruce mentioned, we're already engaged with many enterprises where they're learning with us.
Okay, cool. So Hugh has asked, how do you allow for composability of smart contracts with shipping to a POA network, given that there's currently no way to share state between networks?
That's a great question. So with POA network, we have a token bridge that connects us to the Ethereum main chain. And so on the Ethereum main chain, there will be this ocean token, this staked ocean token on that side. And that allows all the DeFi applications of Ethereum to be unlocked. Things like, decentralized exchange with a Uniswap pair, for example, or the MakerDAO linking to MakerDAO, et cetera. So we're very excited about how Ethereum has been, community has been going down this path of decentralized finance. We're excited that because that largely relies on value exchange, Ocean can then access that. The other parts where other networks tie in is for state, of course, like broadly for state, but Ocean itself is a network of networks where it's having these networks plug in for providing data, providing services, and otherwise. And that's a key part of the design of Ocean. So that allows for composability in that fashion. Finally, there's also composability in terms of governance. So we are using Zeppelin OS software for upgrades. We don't rely on being on the Ethereum network for that. And in the future as well, we see that there's paths to use other pieces of governance building blocks like Aragon and so on. We look forward to the technology for bridges to mature for states. So, when Polkadot comes out, we're very excited about that. And, other technologies too, from OST, Cosmos, and so on.
Okay, so Jay has put down quite a few questions about, what is the most profitable activity in the first year for network participants who don't necessarily have data sets or services to provide? Extending that, is staking going to be live on launch day? And then maybe in the future, is it possible to stake on data which doesn't even yet exist? For instance, healthcare AI service wants genomic data from individuals for a particular cancer, but those individuals haven't had their genome sequenced yet. Can Ocean Protocol facilitate something like that at the protocol level? So I'll let you kind of pick the... Right.
I'll just go through them sequentially. So first question, what do you expect to be the most profitable activity in the first year? If I knew that, the exact answer, I'd probably be a much happier person. But overall, there's a lot of possible things where people can have profitable interaction with Ocean. Most notably, creating data marketplaces, because basically, being the middleman, connecting buyers and sellers. So this is the equivalent of just like we've seen the exchanges for token exchanges, right? Exchanges back and forth to fiat, as well as between or among various cryptocurrencies. And these, several of these have done very, very well over the years. We see, there's a very, very similar business with the data economy. So in general, when you think about Ocean, it's really unlocking a whole data economy that can be viewed as sort of parallel to the token economy. In the token economy, there's exchanges, there's miners, there's block explorers, there's a whole variety of folks doing different things. There's applications and so on. We see a similar emergence for the data economy itself, where there will be exchanges for buying and selling of data and exchanging in other ways. Generalized mining, whether it's serving up data sets or other services, curating on them, and so on. Liquidity providers, et cetera, et cetera. So I see that the data exchanges, the marketplaces for that will be probably a good place to start. Liquidity providing will be pretty interesting, right, among various data sets. So a lot of the DeFi stuff, data itself is an asset, right? So a lot of these ideas that people have had for tokens themselves can apply to data tokens. So that we see those as the stuff on launch day. Like I mentioned, the V3 release is when the incentives come. So when that happens, then there will be opportunities for generalized mining there and everything around, but that isn't on launch day. Going to the next question, will staking be live on launch day? So staking for the bonding curves related to the incentives will be in V3, not on launch day. The thing that is available on launch day, the Cs are there, these service execution agreements. And these Cs are really, think of it like a DAG, directed acyclic graph of conditions, where, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens. But if it's not just a chain, it can be a DAG. And this is actually directly derived from interledger protocol crypto conditions. So you've got this logic to do X, Y, then Z. So as part of those conditions, it includes payments, payment conditions, as well as access control, as well as verified data availability, right? So these things can be composed in various ways, and they're quite flexible. So you can do things that approximate staking with things like just the payment conditions, but it won't be sort of directly natural in a sort of incentives fashion. To the next question, will it be possible to stake on data which doesn't yet exist? So that's a really cool question. The answer is, we saw this question actually in the last few days, and we started investigating. And I believe one of our guys did come up with a way that it turns out that can work quite well with the service execution agreements. So I defer to that, but it looks like there is a way. Maybe you guys, Jay Bulls, you can just reach out to me afterwards, and I can connect you to the thinking on that.
Yeah, I think it's tied a little bit to bounties, essentially saying somebody's putting money forward and saying, if somebody can show me this data, you can win a bounty.
Yeah. So the Cs themselves actually have, they directly support the idea of bounties. So like Gitcoin style bounties, but built directly into Cs.
Okay, cool. So something a little more simple, hopefully to answer. Darius has asked, how many devs on the team? What's the team composition? What's the runway? What's the roadmap?
I can, if you want. So team composition. So in terms of how many devs, we're at about what, 25 devs overall. And the biggest chunk of that team is based in Berlin. And then we have also people in Spain, in the Bay Area, and Singapore. Yeah. And then the roadmap I've talked about, yeah. Okay,
cool. And then the interoperability. So how far, Peter asked, how far could Ocean benefit from blockchain interoperability, like something like Overledger, which is responsible for data integrity and accuracy, let's say from client source to end users?
Yeah, so Ocean is designed from the beginning to be all about interoperability. I mentioned before, it's really sort of a network of networks, but focusing on AI and data use cases, right? So just like if people think about, say, Polkadot or Cosmos as a network of networks, that's sort of like a L1 in crypto. Ocean is sort of one level above for sort of these AI applications. But if you're an AI person, it sort of feels like L1. So if let's say that I'm a decentralized data marketplace and I'm interested in Ocean, how is that beneficial to me? Well, I already have my customers that are feeding data into me. Now I can use my network, plug that into Ocean, and that data can be feeding into Ocean. And in that way, my customers are getting access to a broader set of customers. So there's sort of from the bottom end, and then from the top end, that the marketplace will have a front end, and if it plugs into Ocean as well, then there's just simply more data sets available, right? So there's benefits to all these decentralized data marketplaces. As an example, going for the specific example of Overledger, I see that it's broadly across many blockchains. It has its APIs and so on. So it could be linking in from the top as an overlay, or also the data feeds, et cetera, that it has come in could be into the bottom as well. So very, very similar to the decentralized data marketplaces.
Cool. So Oliver asked, where does the relationship to decentralized oracles come into play?
Right. So the way that Ocean is, it's a network that has data services coming in. These are data availability or compute, basically, right? And with each of these, data availability can be from behind a firewall, so centralized behind a firewall, centralized cloud, like the cloud, Amazon, et cetera, or decentralized cloud. And same thing for compute. Where the compute is done behind a firewall, the compute is done in the cloud, or the compute is done in the decentralized cloud. So the decentralized cloud, this is really Web3 stuff. And this is just getting more mature now. Golem is live, for example, which is cool. There's privacy preserving variants like Enigma. And then other ones are coming down the pipe. You know, Filecoin is coming along and that's going to be a very good example for decentralized data providing. To the question of oracles then, we see oracles as a nice bridge between, sort of halfway between Web 2 and Web 3, where they're sort of helping bring Web 2 services into the mix, but adding a degree of redundancy so that people can choose how much trust they want. You know, instead of having just a single feed, they might have 3 or 5 or 7 feeds. That, you know, and the optionality that Chainlink provides, for example, right? So all the oracles are going to be very, very nice data feeds into Ocean. And, you know, we're in talks with some of them, and we look forward to having all of them integrated.
Cool. So Freddie asked, what's the difference between Ocean and NumRAI?
We're big fans of NumRAI, and Richard. We've had a lot of conversations over the years. NumRAI itself provides a very specific set of tools for, it's basically a hedge fund, but instead of 3 guys in a corner doing smart stuff, and gals, you've got 10,000 data scientists that are sort of together collectively providing algorithms that then NumRAI trades with, right? So that's sort of the traditional NumRAI, and only a fraction of that is decentralized. You know, Ocean actually has the potential to decentralize all of NumRAI. A lot of the NumRAI components could be actually put into service execution agreements and fully decentralized. So things like that, you know, are interesting to both teams. NumRAI has more recently released something called Erasure, and this is very, very cool. You know, it's a paper that Richard wrote, and then NumRAI in collaboration with others released this. And Erasure is a very nice data feed platform, basically, that has some nice signaling characteristics. And so we look forward to having Erasure as another data feed into Ocean.
Cool. And then Subhadeep asked, so who are the competitors to Ocean, and how does Ocean differentiate itself?
Yeah, so overall, we actually see that Ocean is pretty unique. There's a lot of organizations out there doing something at the intersection of AI and blockchain. But because Ocean is set up as a network of networks for AI and blockchain with the sort of service execution agreements at the core, it puts us into a very unique footing. So a lot of these companies are about providing very specific compute services or data services. You know, SingularityNet, for example, is really about decentralized compute. You know, like I mentioned, Enigma is about privacy preserving AI, or privacy preserving compute in general. Erasure for data feeds, and so on and so forth. So we see in general, there aren't any direct competitors. And there's a lot of great projects out there, right? So most of the projects of quality that are somewhere in the space of data or AI with blockchain, we're in conversation with in various levels. And you know, just because we're a network of networks, it allows us to be very collaborative.
Great. So Alfred has asked, how is Ocean Foundation governed? Who is making decisions about how money is spent?
Okay, shall I answer? Do you want me? Because you've been quiet. I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll answer that for Alfred. Ocean Foundation currently has a board of directors. There's 4 of them. Trent and myself are on there, as well as 2 of the other partners, or 2 others from the founding partner, which is Newton Circus Dex. We are going to add additional board members very shortly, right after network launch. And how the money is spent, it's actually less who is making decisions on how money is spent, more what is the most important thing to be spending money on. And right now, there's 2 things that we can think of. Number 1 is building out the technology in a way that makes the technology ever more decentralized and fits the needs of data scientists and the data providers. And number 2 is, how do we build a community around Ocean so that there are people who see themselves and a value for Ocean for them. And these are essentially the 2 main areas where the foundation will put resources, time, people, and energy into.
I think there's another complementary. So a question 2 here, and that is, you know, on governance, Ocean Protocol Foundation itself, after network launch, will not have control in the network any more than other players. So we're in the process of setting up a separate foundation itself for the POA, which will be specifying the governance, and basically will be where there are dozens of actors that collectively make the decisions on the governance of the network infrastructure. And this is really 2 things. Who are the authorities? Who are the keeper nodes? And when does the software get updated, upgraded? And those are the two key decisions around governance. And this is in this other foundation. And Ocean Protocol Foundation might have a seat at the of one of these, dozens of members, but no more.
Cool. So changing topics a little bit, Andreas asked, what's your opinion about data is labor theory by libertarians?
I think there's a lot of different ways to frame how data is. I think, the work of Glenn Whale and Yaron Lanier and others promoting this idea, I love where they're coming from the perspective of, trying to spread the economic opportunities to a broader set of people. And they propose some specific solutions around the idea of data labor unions. That's very cool, actually. And that plays very, very well in Ocean. Ocean, in an upcoming release, we have the notion of clans, where it's a group of people that come together around permissions, around data, and so on. And so using clans, this idea of the data is labor, these unions, can actually be implemented in Ocean. And we'll see if it works or not, right? Ocean is really about spreading the benefits of AI, spreading the benefits of data. So we welcome, new ideas, and we want to help see them get tried out.
So ultimately, we don't need to look to sovereign states to provide basic minimum income for people. It can be provided through the Ocean network.
You never know. Yeah. So yeah, well, I mean, one of the worries about people in AI is along the lines of, will AI take all the jobs? And that's a, medium-term, longer-term concern, and it's a legitimate concern, right? My PhD was on creative AI, so even the people who are creatives maybe aren't safe, right? So we see that Ocean can help provide this public utility infrastructure that helps to unlock ideas in basic income, right? That comes from your data, for example, and so on. And, the example that Bruce gave before of Roche working with Next Billion, there's all these point of sale operators in rural India, these, mom and pop shops running these stores. These stores have income on the order of $1,000 a month and a margin of $100 a month. By actually their data being made available, they're able to increase their margins by as much as 4x. So to us, that's awesome, right? That is a huge way to move the needle for these folks, and it's just by unlocking the data.
So we only have a couple minutes left, but there's 3 or 4 people who asked, Jordy, Darius, Felix, they asked essentially, what are the use cases and projects that can be working on Ocean Protocol? What's the go-to-market? How can Ocean Protocol make a difference where there are already huge players?
Right. So I think in the the use cases, Bruce did a nice review before of some of the use cases. Where we talked, for example, about the point of sale, about connected life with the health, about insurance, and so on. And those are sort of like, we see that Ocean's success is going to be solving one problem at a time, right? Whether it be for business, or whether it's in this sort of AI for good setting towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we are actually sort of having a top-down approach for both of those, as well as a bottom-up approach. The bottom-up approach is making software that's just really, really useful to data scientists, such that they adopt it within their businesses or their NGOs or whatever it is. And bit by bit, improving that software. And so ultimately, yeah, it's about solving one problem at a time, moving the needle for humanity.
So maybe I can build on that question a little bit, because it is always a much bigger challenge for most startups as they start to scale up to work out how to go to market. Do you see, and most platforms tend to be successful actually in a few particular applications at least first before it spreads. Do you see the organization trying to focus on working with some partners to take the capability to market? Some domain specialists who may actually work outside of the decentralized world in order to kind of bring this together initially?
Yeah, I can take that one quickly with the 2 minutes left. Yeah. So we've actually already had that. So we've had people who do, for instance, high frequency trading or deal with stock exchanges say, we're system integrators, and we think this is a great idea because most of the stock exchanges, stock exchanges and high frequency traders, they have data, they want to sell it, they want to create a different revenue stream. Maybe we can help work with you to break into that market. And we've had this across other sectors. In the automotive sector, in the energy sector, we've had others who say, we see a potential to make money on this. And then that frees up the team from Ocean Protocol to hold their hands, and then they can be the go-to-market. Just kind of like how consensus in the Ethereum world tried to break into the enterprise space by providing the business services.
Makes a lot of sense. Yep.
I think because data matters sort of at all levels, from the individual level to the small or medium-sized company, to the big enterprises, to the governments. You know, Ocean has, I think, a really good framing for each of them that matters, right? Ultimately, it's about controlling of your data and making it available. And, you know, government, we didn't mention before, but we're working very closely with the government of Singapore, both on their AI initiative, we just officially signed with AI Singapore, as well as with IMDA, their data authorities, around things like GDPR and so on that we talked about. So, you know, Ocean is built to engage at all these levels.
Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I'd like to thank all of you for participating and providing questions. We didn't get to all the questions, and you may have noticed we didn't talk a lot about tokenomics, the token sale, the utility of all that sort of nature. The reason why is because we have a little bit of an announcement and surprise. So next week on Tuesday, close to this time, we will have Ryan Selkis from Mazzari. He is one of the biggest critics of ICOs, as well as he's one of the biggest kind of what do you call it? He would like people to be more transparent. We are on the Mazzari registry. So Ryan will, I'll do a presentation on tokenomics, as well have Ryan ask me some really tough questions, which I do see some here in the Q&A, so feel free to join in 1 week. The second announcement that we will make, and we'll put that out on our channels right after this for the link to sign up for that Zoom. The next thing that we're going to announce here today is that the contribution for Ocean will start on March 6th at 1400 UTC. Translated, that means 9 a.m. Eastern time in the US. It means 9 p.m. Singapore, and it means 3 p.m. in continental Europe. So with that, I would like to thank Trent and Richard for taking time out of their day to give a presentation, answer questions. We got through 18 of them. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.